Bears Nation podcast. It is Monday, November 22nd, and we as Bears fans will never know peace officially. We will never know any semblance of a normal week, and it's just continues to get worse, and we had a game to talk about, unfortunately, that we had to subject our eyeballs to. We have a game in a couple days that we need to talk about on Thanksgiving Day, too. And then,
Do we have to talk about it? Do we?
Unfortunately, yes, we are going to have to talk about it because there's a lot of news that we're about to talk about is related to this game as well, and this game could very much shape the immediate future of the Chicago Bears as well. So, do we start with the news or do we start with the game? Well, I guess there's both. Because
let's start with they're related. They're all related. The news comes from the game.
It all
the game
ties
led to
in
the
together,
news.
yeah.
Let's start with the news though, because we have a lot of news, and this is like when at this point Bears fans are not going to want to hear us reminisce about the past game. It's just where do we go now? What do we? Right. And it feels like we've been doing this for years. What do we do now? What's next? What's the future? Right? We're getting tired of it, but you still have to answer those questions, and someone's got to answer them. So I guess it'll be us here at Bears Nation Podcast. But let's start with the news.
So, all right. So if you've been living under a rock for since yesterday afternoon, the Bears lose to the Ravens, excruciating fashion, game they should have won. And to add insult to injury, Justin Fields leaves the game with a rib injury. Immediately we're all like, please be okay, please be okay. Andy Dalton comes into the game. Andy Dalton finishes the game. Andy Dalton announced as the starter already on Thursday against Detroit on Thanksgiving Day. Love that for all of us having to watch that game. That's really cool for our Thanksgiving. Anyway, so Andy Dalton starting for the foreseeable future. And now, to get you even more hyped up for this absolute just make your eyeballs bleed game that we're going to have to watch on Thursday. Jordan Schultz, who does a podcast with Allen Robinson, reports that Matt Nagy has lost the locker room. And, this is the thing that really, he doesn't do a lot of things well. But Matt Nagy's whole thing was, I've brought this group of guys together and we've created this family, this brotherhood. And apparently a bunch of the guys like, over it, we want you out. We want you gone. And you would assume, putting two and two together, this wasn't said exclusively, but you would assume that this is coming from Allen Robinson in some shape, way. But also, we don't have to speculate that much because Jalen Johnson straight up said, like, hey, we're sick of the speeches. We're sick of, this rah-rah approach, this rah-rah mentality. It's not working. We've lost 15 of our last 21 games. Something's got to change here. So that's your stud corner, who you expect to be a franchise cornerstone for the next 5-ish years or so. We can assume that Allen Robinson has had some input, given that Jordan Schultz does a podcast with him, and it has been very public about his dislike for the Bears in general as he searches for a new contract, and then the franchise tag saga happened. So there's that as well. Don't really know who else is saying these things, but those are two very public guys right off the bat. And we assume Justin Fields feels some type of way as well, because the game that Matt Nagy was gone, Justin Fields couldn't have been happier. So, and they on the sidelines, the two of them aren't exactly the best of buddies, which seems bad for your head coach and for your starting quarterback, who you expect to hopefully be around for the next 10 years. But anyway, hopefully everyone was able to digest all that information. We're going to keep talking about it today. It is obviously the big story, and you have to assume that. And Schultz capped his tweet with, the only holdup right now is that the Bears have never in their history fired a coach midseason. Makes sense. But if you lose to the 0-win Lions on Thanksgiving on national TV to have your 7th loss in a row and your 6th, 7th? Yeah, that would be 7.
6th. They were 3-2 and now they're 3-7. So 6th loss in a
row.
Cool.
Anyway, but it comes to the Lions then. Sure, okay, you lose to the Steelers on national TV, fine. You lose to the Ravens without Lamar Jackson, by the way, just in case, anyone was worried about, oh, well, it's Lamar Jackson. No, Lamar Jackson didn't play in that game. You still lost. And then you go and you lose to either Tim Doyle and Dan Campbell or Jared Goff, worse, maybe.
So, no, stop it.
Regardless, you lose to a bad quarterback and a bad team that has no wins right now, and their big fist, thump their fist on their chest moment is, oh, we tied against the Steelers so far. That's their big win of the season so far. So who knows? It's really bad, but surprise for you guys, anybody who's currently watching live, listening live, Shane Reardon, friend of the program, is going to come back on because Jordan Schultz joined the Parkins Spiegel show on 670 The Score, which Shane is the EP of. Shane, friend of ours, so he will be here at some point, and we'll talk it through with him. But yeah, really great Monday, Kevin.
Like, when I tell you, like, I'm not gonna. So, like, I reeled myself back in, obviously, Jake, right? I mean, and Romo, of course, Romo has to go all over the broadcast all day saying the Bears could be in the hunt if they win. The Bears, I don't know, Jim. I don't know if the Bears win. They can make a run. He says this nonstop. So here I am watching the game. I'm reeling myself back in as I typically do, right? You're like, okay, you look at the rest of the schedule. You beat the Ravens, you're 4-6. You go to Detroit, you can be 5-6 going into the game against the Cardinals. Maybe they don't have McCoy and all those things. You reeled yourself back in. I got extremely excited when Andy Dalton threw that touchdown, whether it was Dalton or Fields. I don't care. You threw a touchdown, I was freaking elated, and then they let you down. And it's like, how many different ways can you get your heart broken with this team? I mean, it's like every week you think it can't get worse. And then it gets worse the next week. And it's going to get worse this week if they lose to Tim Boyle, a guy who at UConn for 25 games had 1 touchdown and 13 interceptions. How is that possible?
That seems bad.
But we'll get into the preview. Right now we have Shane. Shane is here. Like Jake mentioned, Shane, EP of Parkins Spiegel 670 Score, had Jordan Schultz on. He's going to come in and break down a little bit of what Schultz said. And we'll talk about some other things with him because he's our friend of the program, Shane Reardon. So, Justin, bring him in whenever you like. And there he is.
Buddy.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. I love sports.
There you go.
So how was it? We told everyone what happened. So how was it?
Yeah, you break it down. You break down what Jordan reported already? I missed it.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Not entirely.
So here's one.
Yeah.
We did a general overview of the last 24 hours.
Okay, so here's something you have to keep in mind, and I'm sure you guys talked about this. And when you're talking about reporting, when you're talking about considering somebody as a source and who they might be speaking for and whom they might not be speaking for, Jordan Schultz is a friend and podcast co-host of Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson and his agent Brandon Parker have been both very vocal about the lack of targets. Obviously, the franchise tag situation they're not necessarily happy with, and the Bears can do it again next season at 120% of what Allen Robinson is making right now. So it makes plenty of sense that somebody close to Allen Robinson would want to speak for Allen Robinson in a platform that Allen can't necessarily take advantage of himself. He's spoken to the media this year, and he's been nothing but complimentary of the system and nothing but complimentary of Matt Nagy and Justin Fields. He's spoken on the connection developing slower than maybe previous years and other quarterbacks because of the lack of reps that he was able to take with Justin in the preseason, which points directly to Justin not getting first team reps, not being named the starter over Andy Dalton. So this is probably a legitimate report when it comes to how Allen Robinson is feeling, and maybe some of the others close in Allen Robinson's circle. But this is not a situation where the majority of the Bears locker room, the vast majority is what Jordan said, which would have to be somewhere between 36 and 42 guys of the 53 on the active roster. The vast majority do not want Matt Nagy fired. Make that very clear. This is a situation where somebody close to Allen Robinson is speaking on behalf of him, and he wants him out, and he's voicing his displeasure. Jordan Schultz is a pretty good dude. He's a good podcast host, but he's reported a lot of things that happen to not be true in the least. So this is a situation where you consider the source and understand that in the micro sense, it's what Allen Robinson is thinking and maybe some others, but it's not a vast majority like Jordan says.
So do you put any weight, because this came out and he tweeted this right after Jalen Johnson reportedly made a statement too about how they're kind of over some of Matt Nagy's tactics. I mean, is that just hand in hand to you?
Yeah, Jalen Johnson might be one of the players who also is tired of Matt Nagy, but I do not see a situation where the vast majority of the locker room could want Matt Nagy fired.
So is it still significant then, though? Like, how significant to you is this report? If it is just, a small number of players, if it is just Allen Robinson and his friends, is that enough to, to lead people to believe that the first in-season head coach firing in the history of the Chicago Bears could happen?
I don't trust the McCaskies to do the right thing, and that would be, Matt Nagy should have been fired 3 or 4 weeks ago. You never trust the McCaskies to spend more money than what they have to. It's not something that they're going to do. But if we can deduce that one of the best wide receivers in the NFL wants his head coach fired and wants to play with Justin Fields, seemingly wants to stick around a little bit longer, seemingly, and that he'd do that if you just got rid of the coach and maybe the GM, then yeah, you put weight on it, because this is a generational talent who the Bears in his entire time here have still not found a way to use properly. So of course, it doesn't have to be the vast majority. That part doesn't have to be true. But the fact that Allen Robinson, allegedly, reportedly, you can make your own implication or inference, whatever. I never know which one to use, infer or imply. You can make that inference that he wants him gone, then yeah, that's a huge story.
So then is this, in your eyes, then, is it one of those things where Allen Robinson at this given moment still could be a Bear next year, depending on whether Matt Nagy gets fired? Or do you think this guy's gone regardless and he just wants to, raise his stock for other teams to look at him in free agency so he can get the most out of these, next 7 games to put on his resume for the other teams that are going to look at him in free agency?
Even if the Bears want him back, I don't understand how they'd be able to afford him. They're gonna be walking into the worst cap situation maybe in the NFL. They just won't have the money to do it. So I think it's and you go back to talking about the McCaskies and not spending money they don't have to. They're not going to spend over the cap. Like it's not something they're going to do. I think you just look at it as the bare bones of this is a huge story that one of the best wide receivers in the NFL is saying through someone. And again, you can't confirm that, and we tried to today, but Jordan Schultz is not going to give that up. One of the best wide receivers in the NFL wants his head coach fired.
Yeah, and now to boot, Justin Fields, the only good thing about this season, is now hurt too. So really great.
Yeah. You have your franchise cornerback and Jalen Johnson basically doubling down.
So, even if they lose against Detroit on Thursday, which that's a very real possibility if we're being honest, Matt Nagy is seeing the season through, right? Like there's I'm of the belief 0% chance he gets fired.
Yeah, if you separate your fandom and you separate what we know of the history of the franchise, that the last 60 years, outside of when the owner was the head coach for the first 40 years of the franchise, you take the last 60 years and it's never been done, and it could have been done feasibly with everyone but Lovie Smith, then yeah, it's not going to happen. Mark Trestman did not have the talent. I don't think that. I'm trying to think about it. Mark Trestman had a skill position. He had the skill player talent, and he had a pretty darn good defense, but he didn't have the quarterback. Nobody's had the quarterback that Matt Nagy's had. Mark Trestman might be the only other one that you could argue, in recent memory, that it should have happened mid-season, and it didn't there. So why would it happen here?
Right. Now it's kind of just like I've been trying to think about this. Like, do I even want Justin Fields to see the field for the rest of the year, even if he's?
Oh, come on! He's got to see the field at some point.
Keep that man safe at all possible costs.
Like, Matt Nagy is doing a bad job at scheming, but he's not really putting Justin in danger. I can't recall many situations that they're not rolling him out. They're not putting him on the run. If they were putting him on the run all the time with design quarterback runs and not giving him no matter what you say, this Bears offensive line has been pretty darn good at protection as of late. And I was reading the other day, the Bears are 8th in the NFL in efficiency of protection of the quarterback, but 30th or 32nd when it comes to the quarterback taking hits. A lot of that can be credited to or discredited to Justin Fields being so young and not understanding when he needs to flee the pocket and not understanding when he needs to get rid of the ball because he holds on to the ball way too long. I can't sit here and say that Matt Nagy has put Justin Fields in a position to be hurt. So I don't think that if he's healthy, he's playing.
Okay. That's fair.
I think about it like just the inherent risk of playing NFL football, and like you expect Justin Fields to outlast Matt Nagy in this situation that we're theoretically dreaming up. So that's like more where I'm coming from with that.
Okay. So then your argument would be the same no matter who the coach is then. Like if you don't want Justin Fields to get hurt because it's NFL football, then he's not playing.
Right. Well, I just mean like in the sense that, yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah.
If the injury was more severe, Jake, I would understand what you're saying. Yeah. But like it's just Bruce. I mean, you're relating this to the injury, right? I assume it's just the fact that you don't want him to get more injured.
And the outlook of the next 5, year or even next year to
yeah. A point. I mean, I don't think it's related. I think no matter how bad the coach is, Justin Fields is going to become a better player by seeing the field. You know what I mean? Yeah. By getting more experience, he's going to become a better player. The thing going back to what you're talking about firing coaches and how, they didn't do it with Tressman, they didn't do it with Fox, they didn't do it in times that they could have done it. Again, this is a difference. We've never seen anything like this. So do things change this is the worst it's ever been. And I think you could say that with safety, that this is the worst it's ever been, considering everything, the quarterback and what the quarterback means to this organization now, knowing that you have your prized possession, knowing that Pace has gotten you all the talent that he has wanted, that Matt Nagy has wanted, and you're not able to do anything with it. It's never been this bad. I think just because, although it hasn't happened in the history of the organization, you also have to think just as much as how it's never been this bad and how that could play into the reasoning. So I think it's low. It's low. It's maybe 25%. I think it's a possibility, maybe even if it is just week 14 or 15, I think it's a legitimate possibility because it's simply never been this bad. Is that a fair way to think?
No. I mean, not really. Not considering who the McCaskies are. Like if it's week 14 or 15, then it doesn't matter by then. Just hold on to it because you're not doing anything anyway. It's simply not going to happen because the McCaskies don't do it. Owen said it on the station this morning. Pat Manley said it on my show this afternoon. These are people who know the McCaskies well and have been a part of their lives for the last 20 to 30 years. Like it doesn't matter what the three of us think and what the three of us know and what the majority of the fan base sees and knows, that this is a no-brainer move to get rid of Matt Nagy and just let either Chris Tabor or Mike Pettin or Bill Lazor or Sean Desai finish out the season as the head coach. That's a no-brainer. That's what should happen. But what we know of the McCaskies, it just simply won't.
Yeah.
It's sad.
I hope.
Isn't it sad?
It is.
It's really depressing.
Because truly, the reason why I think it's really frustrating too, because I think there is a legitimate possibility that if they did fire him, the no-brainer decision, if they did fire him, say today, if they fired him today, you would see an invigorated team on Thursday. You would see a team that wants to play, and I think you would see a completely different team for the final five. It's like, what was it? Was it last year or 2 years? It was last year that the Lions had fired. Who was their previous head coach before this year? Patricia. And they fired him before. Yeah, Matt Patricia. They fired him the game before they played the Bears. And then at home last year, Lions come out with a whole lot of fire under Darren Bevel's first game. Darrell Bevel, I think was his name. I remember. And they look like a completely different team. I think you could see something like that because of the way they respect him, the way that everybody knows that he's the problem. And if that's apparent in the locker room, I think you'd see a different team. Do you agree with that?
I 100% agree. And that's what makes this situation so sad, is that if your best players are fed up with the head coach and there's a clear and concise way to fix that, the fact that they won't do what's right and fix it makes you rethink why you like the organization and the team so much. It makes you rethink why we dedicate so much time on our weekends and you guys hosting your podcast 1, sometimes 2 times a week, right? Yeah. Talking about this team that provides no satisfaction whatsoever. There's nothing satisfying about watching the Bears unless Justin Fields is doing what he did against Pittsburgh last week. There's nothing this team does or says publicly on a daily basis to inspire you to want to spend more time consuming their product and spend more time talking about it. There's nothing they do to reward you for spending as much time as you do thinking about them, dedicating time to them, nothing. And something they can do to fix that is to fire Matt Nagy and see what happens. And they simply won't because they don't care about you.
Yeah.
McCaskies don't care about the fans. It's just, it is what it is.
Right.
And when I'll tell you this, when Virginia dies, it's going to be an absolute madhouse. Those siblings do not like each other. When Virginia's done, it's going up for grabs. I'll tell you that.
Well, that's inspiring as well. Justin, you have a question?
What's up, Shane?
Hey.
As long as Mike McCaskey brings back that fur coat.
It's Justin Kaufman.
It is.
What's
I
up,
had
buddy?
no idea you were in here.
Okay, question for you.
Yeah.
Your listeners on the show, the top-rated #1 show in Chicago. What's the best way to explain? Are they angry? Are they apathetic? Is it just apathy? Are they like, just like you just said, where they're like, I'm done with this team and I don't care one way or another? I mean, what's the feeling you're getting from Bears fans who call in, who used to be irate and now might be something different?
Yeah, I think this is the biggest problem, that those fans, the everyday guys who are watching with their friends in the garage or the backyard or their man cave or whatever, they see what's wrong and they see what can be done to fix what's wrong, and it's just not being done. Like Bob in Elmwood Park watching the game in his garage understands that the best way to utilize Justin Fields is to move him from the pocket and let him make decisions on the run. And the guys that you've put in charge of your football team and the offense specifically, and Matt Nagy and Bill Lazor, are simply not doing what the general fan and the average Joe fan can see is the best way to utilize your rookie star quarterback. That's where the frustration comes. And that these guys call, and I screen these calls, and they're screaming at why doesn't Matt Nagy see the things that I see? Why? And normally, like, I hate callers. We don't take many callers. We'll take them on Bears Mondays, and that's about it. Normally, I don't give a flying fuck about what callers think about anything that we talk about, because you don't like to rely on the caller to provide content. But in this situation, when these guys, I'm lockstep with all of them. That yes, you're right, Bob in Elmwood Park. I agree. They should understand that moving Justin Fields from the pocket and letting him see the game that way is what's best for him, his development, and the team. And the fact that either Matt Nagy and Bill Lazor don't agree, or they don't see the same things, or they have a different agenda as to how they believe Justin Fields should be developed and used, that's the most frustrating part. And fans are seeing it, and we're hearing about it.
You know, real quick, just a follow-up. What I've noticed before when fans have forced the hand of management when it comes to coaches has been media coverage. As you mentioned, you spend so much time on Mondays talking about the Bears. I remember when the Sun Times would go, okay, it's no longer a front page story because they're 4-11, or drop them to the 5th because the Bulls are good, or whatever it might be. That's when it gets their attention. There is something about ego that the Bears want to be the #1 sports franchise in this town. So if the media starts to turn their back on the Bears, saying it's not worth it, I'm apathetic to what you're doing, your product sucks, what's the point? The Bulls are actually good at the United Center, we'll see you later. That's when the McCaskies move.
And I think that answer, see, here's the hard part. That should have been felt yesterday, but the prospect of seeing Justin Fields against Lamar Jackson is too big to turn down, and fans are not going to turn away from that game, and they're still going to go, and they're going to pack the stadium. And the next home game on December 5th is the Arizona Cardinals, and the prospect of seeing Justin Fields play Kyler Murray is going to do the same exact thing. And then the next home game is a Monday night game against the Vikings, and the prospect of seeing the Bears Monday night is going to do the same thing. So in these situations where the product on the field is not matching with what fans want, the environment and the prospect of seeing the opponent is going to override it. So I totally agree, Justin, that lack of coverage and lack of enthusiasm should force a McCaskey's hand, but there's just too many other factors that will entice the fan base to watch the product. And that's sad. That no matter what, if Justin Fields is at the helm and he's healthy, you're going to go watch Justin Fields.
Well, that's
What it
what's
is.
interesting
Sucks.
is like if then if that's the case and the McCaskies understand that, then they know that's their money grab, then they should feel totally fine making decisions in other areas. Because I said all along that once they understand that this organization now runs through Justin Fields and not Matt Nagy, they don't have allegiance to Matt Nagy anymore. All this collaboration and all of the, togetherness that they have preached for the past few years, maybe something has clicked in their minds that, look, we've never had a prospect like this. We've never had a guy that's generated this much money to our organization from this position, this much media coverage, all of these, great storylines from having, one of the best prospects, one of the best quarterbacks, one of the best young rookies in the league. Maybe it's clicked for them now that this is what generates all the money and all the media that Justin just alluded to. That's all that matters. All the other factors we feel more okay with getting rid of. And I think that should be encouraging for maybe not just, Bears fans who think that he'll get fired in season, but the fact that he's going to be 100% gone at the end of the season regardless.
Yeah, so you would think that is very sound logic, and that's what the majority probably believes. But Kevin, here's the thing. I'm going to let you in on something that Jake understands, Justin understands, I understand. You're a very young boy. You haven't been hurt by as much as we've been hurt. And I'll even lump Jake in that. He's not much older than you. You're very young boys. You don't necessarily understand that it doesn't matter if
Right.
the logic is correct, and it doesn't matter if what we think should happen is correct and is what should happen. The McCaskies don't give a fuck about you. They don't
have to give a fuck about me, but that's why I'm saying, like, again, we're younger people, but even in your time watching this team and being alive, you've never seen a quarterback like Justin Fields for this organization. So that's why I bring that up is they may not give a fuck about, they don't give a fuck about me, you, anybody. It doesn't matter, but they should give a fuck. And I hope they do give a fuck about Justin Fields. And if they do, and if they understand that, yeah. So like, honestly, the question then becomes, at this given point, after everything we know, do they hold more allegiance to the head coach and the general manager or the quarterback that's going to, bring them everything that they want in the next 10 years? Where do their priorities lie when it comes to that?
Oh, it's like, I think we're about to find out.
I think I lost you there for a second.
Oh, there you go. I think you're back now. There you
You guys got me?
Yeah, we got you now.
Yeah, we got you. But does he have us? Is the question.
They also turn on a
got
light.
Yeah, we got you now.
Yeah.
We got you now.
We got you.
Okay, all right. Repeat the back end of that question. I'm sorry.
Can you turn on a light? Is what I'm
Justin wants you to
I'm
turn the
trying
lights
here.
on.
Justin, I'm trying. I don't have very good light in this apartment. Hold on, let me see if this will help. Hold on.
There you go.
Maybe I'll just stand over here for you. I don't know if that's going to be better.
Perfect. Well, what I was
I don't know
just
if that's
saying was
better.
like,
Oh, it
they
is
may,
better.
that is better. They may not care about, any of us. Doesn't matter. I don't care if they do. I don't care if they don't. The question then becomes, at this given moment, November 22nd, the day we're recording this podcast, knowing everything that we know, if you had to guess, does their allegiance rather still lie with the general manager or the head coach, or does it lie with the quarterback that's going to give them everything they want for the next 10 years?
I don't know, and that's the hard part, because you and I know where it should lie, but every single move that they've made leading up to spending the draft capital to move up to draft Justin Fields, every move outside of that has said that their allegiance lies with Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace. Mm-hmm. And that it's more than likely that even if Nagy goes, Ryan Pace will get a third head coach. Because they're going to sell you on, look at the value he found in the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th rounds. Mm-hmm. Look at the value this guy finds in guys like Darnell Mooney. And if what's-his-face, Larry Borum, is any good. Look at the value he found. But, hey, we moved up to draft Tevin Jenkins, and by all counts, he's a bust and a bum. How do you interview a guy pre-draft and find out from Mike Gundy, head coach of Oklahoma State, that Tevin didn't even find his mean streak until his senior year of college when somebody told him how much money he could make as an offensive lineman in the NFL. He didn't care about football, didn't care about being mean until someone told him that. And he's like, oh, maybe I should try to be a mean guy. You want to tell Olin Kreutz that this guy discovered the ability to be mean his senior year of college, and you're going to waste a second-round pick on him? Ryan
even
Pace
to that point,
pick.
even to the point too, like where with this back injury that like it apparently was an issue last year too.
Yeah, that they knew about, about.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I hate them, and that they give me absolutely no reason to want to watch them every weekend. If it wasn't for work, I wouldn't consume the Bears. If it wasn't, I didn't want to go to the game on Sunday. I wanted to go to the tailgates, get smashed, have a good time, take the red line home and watch it. But Pat texted me. He's like, hey, my friend's got an extra ticket to the game. Do you want to go? I said, no, Pat, I don't really want to go. And he said, well, it's second row behind the south end zone. I said, yeah, Pat, I'll be there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sold.
That's the only reason I ended up going to the game yesterday. I don't want to give them my money. And I didn't. Granted, somebody else gave them their money and gave me the ticket. But I don't want to be there and support that team because they don't deserve it.
Right.
Man,
they don't deserve the support.
They don't.
Yeah,
so that's the final thing. Then we'll let you get out of here. There are
I got dinner to make. What the hell?
Yeah. What do you
6:30, and then I get a freaking text from Kevin. Hey, do you want to talk about an interview that happened on the air an hour ago? Sure, dude.
What are you making for dinner? Give us a little sneak peek.
Chicken legs or something like that.
All right.
I don't know. We'll see what's in the fridge.
Love to hear it. Throw it together on the fly.
I'll send you a picture. You let me know.
Yeah. We got to see it. We'll put it on our Twitter.
Thank God.
Yeah, the engagement that you will get from our Twitter page. Oh, it's gonna be
the trickle down effect from that would
Man.
really do your wonders, I'm sure.
It's gonna be something big for him. Just wait. The 2 likes that we get on each of our tweets.
Exactly.
But no, there's people who believe that regardless of what happens, I don't care if you hire Brand Dable or Kellen Moore or whoever it may be, or I don't care if you want to hire Peyton Manning as the GM. Nothing will ever change unless they get rid of Ted Phillips and those at the top. All right, are you on the side of that? Because you seem to have this approach that you're very, as you should be, against what the McCaskies do and believe. So if you do have that ideology, what gives you faith that a new head coach, a new GM will functionally change anything and fundamentally change things throughout the whole organization going forward?
I don't have that faith. I don't think that unless they hire somebody to be the president of football operations that is an actual football person and empower them to make football decisions without having to consult with frickin' what's his name? What's the accountant's name?
Ted Phillips.
Thompson, whatever the hell his name is. Whoever it is.
That guy's name.
Yeah, no idea.
No, who's Ted Phillips?
Yeah.
Is that what you said, Jake?
Stooge. Big fat Stooge. Yeah.
Until they remove all responsibility from Ted Phillips' hands and let people who know the game make the decisions that impact the play on the field, then nothing's going to change. Sell the team. It won't happen, or sell majority stake in the team. Take your minority stake. Be the royals, be the figureheads, be the face of the team that don't get to make decisions. And then I'm not just saying this because he's part of the station, but if the Bears were to hire Olin Kreutz tomorrow as the president of football operations, the organization for the next 25 to 30 years would be in the best position it's been in the last 50 years. It's you hire Olin. You let Olin bring in somebody like Byron Leftwich as your head coach if he wants to leave Arizona or wherever the hell I think it's Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay. If he wants to leave Tampa Bay, then you're turning things around for the better for the next 25 to 30 years. It's a no-brainer, and Olin is somebody that the McCaskies like. So,
new campaign, new
eyeball
campaign starting it.
Inside scoop?
No,
I don't know.
Not inside scoop, but something that would make a big difference immediately.
Yeah.
All right, last thing, and then we'll go let you make your, put together patchwork dinner. Are we going to win Thursday? Like, are they going to beat the Lions?
No.
I don't think so
No,
either.
they're not going to beat the Lions on Thursday.
Cool.
The Lions are 0-8-1 or 0-9-1, whatever it is, but they're in pretty much every single game, especially the last 4 or 5 weeks. Pretty much every single game the Lions are in. And if Allen Robinson's not going, we know Khalil Mack's not going. We don't know about Akeem Hicks. Jalen Johnson, I think, was on the injury report today. Darnell Mooney was on the injury report today. Kindle Vildor has turned out to be maybe the worst cornerback in football that has a deciding stake, like the worst number 2 corner in football. Eddie Jackson might not go on Thursday. I don't see any way, unless Justin Fields is healthy, which he's not going to be.
Dalton's already been named the starter, basically.
You don't have a single chance unless David Montgomery rushes for 225 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's the only – and you get a defensive takeaway for a score. That's the only chance they have to beat the Lions on Thursday.
Gross.
So what you're saying is I should just play my turkey bowl throughout the Bears game, because I was going to end it at the start of the Bears game. We're going to start at 9 a.m., play a little football till about 11:30, but guess we're just playing it all the way through because I don't want to watch that. I don't.
We're masochists. I think that's the right word. Masochists. We're going to watch the game. You're going to watch every single minute of the game.
I'm going to watch the fucking game. I know I am.
The entire game. And you're going to sit there and just think about how much you hate yourself and every single decision that you've made that's gotten you to this point today, that's made you hold on to this fandom for this trash-ass football team, this trash-ass organization. You're going to sit there, watch every second, and then you're going to think about it for the rest of your day. Instead of sitting there and enjoying the time with your family, you're going to sit there and think about why you've made the decision you've made to be a Chicago Bears fan.
Where it went wrong.
At birth.
Yeah.
Blame your parents. I don't care.
Yes.
What the hell, Dad?
Yeah. Come
on.
All right, Shane, go make dinner. Thanks for talking to us, man. Love you.
All right, guys.
Appreciate you, Shane.
Have a good rest of your show.
All right.
Shane. Talk to you later. Shane Reardon, everyone. Friend of the program. Love that guy. Great guy. Can't wait to see those pictures in a couple minutes.
Yeah, the chicken legs. That'll be cool. Shane M in the chat says we're gonna watch it. It's the Bears. He says Shane's think alike. We have a Shane M in the chat who resonates with Shane R has said on air.
I mean, it's not even
Shout
just
out
the
Shane
Shane's he's right. We're all gonna watch it. Like he's completely right. Like we're gonna sit there. Like I know you're saying you're gonna end that game. You're not gonna end that game. You're gonna play through it. I know as soon as it gets to 10:50, you're gonna say, all right, I gotta go set up for the Bears game. Maybe even earlier. It might be 10:45, and you're gonna say, all right, we gotta pause. We got to pause. We got to get and watch this stupid, gross game in which half the people are not even going to be playing.
Turkey Bowl means a lot to me, man. Do you play a Turkey Bowl on Thanksgiving? You got it, right? Or do you do it on Wednesday?
I mean, I used to, but now like
your body is
well, not even that. Just all my friends, like my one friend moved to Colorado, one moved to Arizona, one moved to Indiana. None of my friends live around here anymore.
Jake, we've been looking for a 10th player. I'm just saying, we got 9 right now.
Well, now that I work, now I work until 11 anyway. So your boy's gonna be
on Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
I
mean until 11 a.m. But
that's not bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
mean, so I'll be hopping on the good old Metro at 11 a.m.
What the hell are you taking the Metro to work for, you fucking weirdo?
No, I
live
take
right
it
by the
to my
Brown line?
parents' house in the suburbs. You absolute
I was
dummy.
I was about to say, what do you mean you're taking the Metro?
Absolute
I was confused.
doofus.
I was confused.
Don't knock the Metro, man. If you live in the city, if you hop up in the north side like Ravenswood or Clybourne, you're in the city in like 5 minutes as opposed to the train, which sucks. The CTA.
True. Really? You can do that?
So who's a dummy now, Kev? It might be a little bit more expensive, but if you hop that Ravenswood Metro, it's like an express shot downtown in like 20 minutes as opposed to 45.
There you go. See, Jake?
I mean,
I'm not that crazy.
I mean, you're still a doofus, but anyway. So the Bears, I mean, I guess we have to preview the stupid game. Like Shane said, everybody is hurt. I don't even know who's like, obviously we're not going to find out until probably Wednesday because the Bears do this thing where guys will not practice. And I mean, Akeem Hicks will tough it out if he really if he is healthy enough to get maybe a practice in, or if his warm-ups before the game feel fine. Like he's going to go and he'll go. Obviously, Khalil Mack isn't going to play. He's done for the year. And we have Andy Dalton, and it's going to be really gross.
I want to say something real quick. All right. Cause I think
this is the time for it.
I think this is interesting. In situations like this, let's make it clear again what Shane said and why we brought him on is because we wanted to, get exactly the full scoop of what Jordan Schultz, was saying is that the vast from Shane's mouth, from Jordan's mouth, as it gets, passed along, the vast majority doesn't want him to get fired, but there's a majority, there is some sort of, good base that does. Okay. And here's what happens in situations like this. I think, in the world of sports, I've played sports, Jake's played sports, even if you just played sport at the high school level, even if, you've competed at any point, if you've ever had a situation like this where you got a coach who is always the problem and always is the issue, and everyone knows that, everyone's aware of that. There's no question from the outside, there's no question from the inside that this guy is the problem. It becomes a distraction. And how does it become a distraction? Because although the coach is to blame, players still make mistakes. Carlos Santos missed a crucial field goal. Yeah. Guys made mistakes all over the field. But what happens sometimes is when you go back now and you take the jersey off, you take the wrap off, and you go home and you reflect on the game and you just kind of, dissect throughout the week, it always goes back to, the team is messed up. The coach is messed up. This is the reason why we're bad. The coach is screwing us all over. This is the issue. If we just would get rid of the coach, we're all going to be okay. We'll all be fine. And I'm not alluding to any specific player. I don't even know if this is true. I'm just saying what could be possible is that sometimes in those situations, it's players maybe don't do the same self-reflecting. They don't do the same, say, hey, I really need to work on my game. I need to improve on the things I need to work on instead of, blaming it and making the coach the scapegoat as he should be.
Yeah.
As he should be. But you think Bill Belichick, you think any of those guys, with Bill Belichick at the head coach would think he's the problem. Bill Belichick is going in there and saying, look, you better do some serious self-reflection. You better work on your freaking game because we're a great team. The rest of the team is playing well. You're not playing well. You got to get better. But I'm worried that sometimes in this locker room, it's a collective thinking that we're good players, which I still think is true. I think you have a lot of talent. The coach is the issue. And nothing's going to change because all we believe is that that's the one thing that needs to change. And that may be true, but I think it does prevent certain, specific players to look at themselves in the mirror and think, look, I actually need to get better as well. The coach is to blame for certain things. I need to look myself in the mirror. I need to self-reflect, and I need to be a better player. I don't know if that's true. It's a prospect, but I think sometimes you'll see that in situations like this when the coaching situation and the turmoil in the locker room gets this bad.
Yeah, I mean, but to that effect, like you brought up, like Bill Belichick inspires his players to want, like Matt Nagy's not inspiring anyone to be better.
Yeah, that will okay. So that's part of it as well. That's very true. That's part of it as well. And quite frankly, the reason why I used him as the example is because I look at their roster and I'm thinking 9 out of 10 GMs are probably taking the Bears roster over the Patriots roster, top down. Quarterback all the way down to defense, you're probably taking the Bears roster. So it's just a number. It's one of a number of things that you can look at as to why Matt Nagy should not be the head coach. It's just, man, you're not inspiring these guys to get better. You're not inspiring them to play, as Jake mentions. And then for them, it's not, as a player, you can't just wait for the coach to inspire you. That's not how it works. You have to find it within yourself, but these guys can't because the ineptitude of the coaching staff and the where you're at right now, 3-7, what desire do you have to try and get better? Right? Like, guys are playing for contracts, but it's so shitty that some of these guys are just probably checked out. And can you blame them to a certain extent? Can you blame them to a certain extent, man? How could you not be checked out in this situation, right? Like,
I'm never a guy that's like, yeah, these players are checked out unless we have like hard, substantial evidence.
I'm not saying they are. I'm just saying I don't want to blame them if they would be.
Because what I'm saying is though, like, there's a difference between like these guys as NFL players who like go out there to compete and like play a game as opposed to like average Joe who's going to his cubicle job. Like it's like
Well,
it's not
yeah.
just it's like that guy's checked out because his job is just whatever. Like these guys are NFL players. They've been doing it for a long time. They do it for pride, if nothing else. I feel like it,
Sure.
and that goes to for most professional athletes. I would think maybe the last game where it's like, okay, this is a shitty season. We just won 5 games. Like, yeah, maybe then you can make that argument. But to the point, like there's still, a lot of games left for this team. Like a lot of these guys are probably playing for pride and for their next contract. So I don't think you're going to see guys in the, like even Shane M in the chats, like you saw Robert Quinton be so sad post game. Like, yeah, like that, like those guys still feel it. Like it's still,
Well, no, I'm not saying they don't feel it, but like, and especially I think about it, especially too for the defensive guys, because I'll say this too. Although the defense rather as a whole made in the end of it, when it came down to look, our defense needs to make a stop. They didn't do it. It's still they did enough for you to win that game. They did. You should have won. That shouldn't have come down to that. And this is a recurring thing for 3 years, Jake. Like, think about it. These guys going out on the field said, "Look, I'm busting my ass off. It's 9 points. We've surrendered 9 points in the fourth quarter. Okay, and now we're getting like, come on, these guys are probably like, shit, dude. I've done this over and over and over again. And we go to practice, and this is the result on the field. Like, it's just it's got to be fresh. I'm not gonna insinuate that any specific player, any specific guy is checked out, but I wouldn't blame them if you lose motivation because of the way the coaching staff has operated and the way your team has played. You know what I mean?
I still think, and that's like, I think it's just, you got to get to the finish line and then go from there, because
it's so stupid.
It is. But like, what I mean is, like, you get to the finish line and then, because I still think, let's say that the Jordan Schultz thing hadn't even happened today. I was leaning towards like Matt Nagy's probably going to get fired at the end of this season. Like, you have to,
regardless,
especially if the losses continue to pile up. And like, I'm not even sure you could beat the Vikings at this point. Like, the Vikings are playing not half bad either.
Yeah, you're not
at this point. So it's like, you look at the schedule right now, you might not even beat Detroit. So how can you look at the schedule going forward? Like, how can you say you're going to beat the Giants or the Vikings or the Cardinals? Like, you're not going to beat the Packers. Like, you're at this point now where, okay, Matt Nagy, regardless of this locker room, like these rumors and things that may or may not be happening in the locker room as far as losing it or not, there's a chance he gets fired for performance anyway, especially if they lose out. Like, if this is it, if you don't win another game this year, like,
I don't even want that. So if that's the case, like, now it's not as well. So okay, if that's the case, it's just like, what you can do, like what is possible is, and you've seen this, and I mentioned, when you talk about Detroit, it's not really, valid in their situation last year when they fired their head coach. You can gain momentum going into next year. I guess the example is the Chargers. That's exactly what they did. Or what no, I lied. Did Anthony Lynn get fired at the end of the year? I don't think he got fired mid-season. So. Yeah, he got fired.
I think it was end of the year.
But if you fired Matt Nagy today, you generate belief within the organization in the next 7 games, regardless of the outcome of the majority of those games, that you can be something going forward. You can gain momentum going into 2022.
Like, 2 very important things that Shane said. The McCaskies don't care about us or what we think.
It's not about us, though.
But to that point, then they don't care about like that. They care about who they have to pay for how long. They're going to keep him simply because they have to keep cutting the check. And because, like, we're still going to talk about it, like, we're still going to do this podcast. Not that our show matters per se, but in general, this team is still going to get attention because the Justin Fields factor and because of who you play the rest of the year. Like, people are going to tune in for Justin Fields versus Russell Wilson, Justin Fields versus Kyler Murray, the Vikings on primetime. People are going to tune in for that. Like, they're not going to fire him because they know that he's going to keep cashing those checks. So for the McCaskies, they're saying, all right, we might as well keep him then, because they don't care. They don't care about that. They don't care about momentum for 2022. They care about the payroll.
I agree, but so I've been so, oh, they could, they may, they might.
They won't.
I'll say I'll say definitively they will. I'm going to make a hot take. I think they fire him before season's end. I do. If it doesn't have, obviously, as much as we wanted it to happen today, Monday, November 22nd, it wasn't going to because of the short turnaround to Detroit. So I think that was a big influence as to why it didn't happen. If you lose to Detroit, I think it's all but a lock. If you win against Detroit and you lose bad to the Cardinals or you lose bad to the Packers again, I think it happens. And the reason why I say that, I don't care. I don't care about the history, okay? I don't care about the 102 history of the Chicago Bears that they've never done it, okay? Great, cool. They fired Lovie Smith after 10-6. At some point, they do make those decisions. Now, what I told Shane that he kind of brushed off, and he had reasons to do so, but I still believe it is, Jake, it's never been this bad. And this situation is far more unique than any other situations where it could have happened. Far more unique, far different. You had situations with Mark Trustin and John Fox where, okay, the roster simply wasn't good enough. What's gonna happen if you fire him? What are you gonna gain from it? You're getting nothing. The roster's not good enough to win you games anyway. You don't have a quarterback who's gonna develop. You don't have anything to inspire. It was a situation where you knew at that point, if you were to fire him, it doesn't matter. You're going through a 3-4 year rebuild anyway. And anyway, this is a situation where if you fire him, well, when you do fire him, even if you fire him earlier before, next year, you're going to be a contending team with Justin Fields. You will. You will be a team that will have a shot to make this playoffs, especially with the 7th seed. You'll be a contending team next year. You have your prized possession. You have your guy. You have the quarterback who needs to develop. You have a team that has a lot of talent and contracts through 2022 that need to be inspired. This situation is different than any other situations you want to bring up to me about the past history of the Chicago Bears. That's why I think they're going to do it. He's going to be gone either after the Lions if they lose, or after the Cardinals if they lose big. If they keep that game close, or if they somehow win, then after the Packers when they lose to the second time to them. That's what is going to happen. I'm locking it in. Like, and come on, tell me I'm wrong when you say this situation has never been more apparent and is in a million different ways different than the John Fox, different than Mark Trestman, different than some of the other guys that we've seen. So I mean, where am I wrong about that?
Because also, like, I think you are higher on this team for next year than I am at this moment, because here's the thing.
You have good young pieces, Jake.
Well, here's the thing though. Like you have Justin Fields, you believe in what he can do. But if you fire him, like, you're done this season. You're out of the playoff picture.
Yeah,
like this is done. This is signed, sealed, deliver. You don't have even your own first round draft pick. So you're not playing, like, you tank, but the Giants get that pick anyway, so it doesn't matter. So you fire him, and then you're probably looking at that rebuild situation. Like, I don't think a lot of these guys come back next year. Like, you texted me the other day that there's an out of the Khalil Mack contract, and there's a real chance they use that. Allen Robinson might not come back next year. Like,
I don't care. Like, if you lose Allen Robinson and you lose Khalil Mack, I don't think you're.
But I'm saying their situation is similar to a lot of different guys. Like, there are a lot of guys that you can, and a really good chance that they move on from a lot of these guys in the offseason, because we heard the rumors of it this past offseason too. And now Shane brought up the cap. You're in an even worse situation. What are you going to add to this team? You don't have a lot of wiggle room. You would have to add through the draft, and you don't have your first round pick.
There's a lot of ways I think they can get talent in free agency once they get rid of the Foles contract. Once if they do want to restructure things and they do want to cut Jimmy Graham and I think their cap situation is better than what he made it out to be. I'll have to look at it exactly, but they'll be able to make moves. I mean, like, but Jake, at some point it doesn't matter though. You don't have to reload with talent. I mean, again, I time and time again, Jake, how impressive is the Patriots roster? How impressive is the Chargers roster? How impressive are, the rosters for some of these teams that are, good team, the Titans? I mean, these are teams that their rosters aren't loaded. You don't have to have an Arizona Cardinals roster to compete. Yeah, the Arizona Cardinals are one of the best teams in the league, and they've done it because they've acquired or Los Angeles Rams, Von Miller, OBJ, all these guys. You don't need to spend a heck of a lot of money to be in contention. You need guys who are better than what you currently have. It's not hard to find a guy who's better than Kindle Vildor. I think you're gonna spend.
That's fair, but the bar's in hell in that situation.
You're gonna spend money on a big time receiver. It's gonna be, if it's not Allen Robinson, it's gonna be Devontae Adams. It's gonna be one of the other guys. So Yeah, Chicago Fredo says hire Arturas Karnisovas. He's a cap wizard. Give us DeMar DeRozan, Lonzo Ball, and we'll be great.
Yeah.
But
it is insane that we're just over halfway through the season and we're already talking about next season. It is nuts. It is nuts that we've both are we both just accepting that they're gonna lose on Thursday?
I'm not accepting that they're gonna lose, but
all right. So let's get to our predictions.
Oh, fuck
then.
this!
All right.
I'm not doing this week. I'm not doing it.
You're not doing a prediction? All right. I'll go first, and if you hear anything that gives you a jumping off point, fine. But I mean, I think they lose this game.
Here. Does it change? It doesn't change for you if it's Boyle or Goff. It's a loss either way.
I mean, I guess if it's Boyle, like you have a punching chance, but like Shane, like Shane said, like David Montgomery would have to run for 1,000,000 yards. Like it would, he would have to break every single game record known to man.
That's not
and you would need a Jakeem Grant return touchdown, especially
Jake,
you would if it's Goff, like everything is going to have go. I guess like Boyle's.
You're giving them too much credit, Jake. As much as I love you, you're giving them because also Detroit Lions too much credit.
Well, Shane was right. They've actually played not bad, and they care. Like Dan Campbell has them like actually caring, and they stink. Like
kneecaps, baby.
Yeah, and like you have this short week, and it's in Detroit, right?
Yeah, obviously. Come on, Jake. It's Thanksgiving in Detroit.
But it's just and especially because we don't know who's going to play right now for the Bears. You don't know who you have and who you don't, so that puts you behind the 8 ball as well. Like I don't think they get blown out. Like I'm ready to accept that they lose this game 17-10.
So that's disgusting.
Look, say 4-3.
Jake, yeah. As much as I agree with you about the ineptitude of the Bears, you are giving the Detroit 9-1 Detroit Lions too much fucking credit. Jake, if Tim Boyle starts this game, I will put $100 on the Bears to win. They will not lose to the Detroit Lions with Tim effing Boyle, a guy who was 1 TD to 13 interception ratio in UConn, played at Eastern Michigan and had like a 13 to 25 TD interception ratio. Come on. They tied the Steelers with Mason Rudolph. Okay. The Bears have been just as competitive as them. I'm not saying the Bears are a good team. They're not anywhere near a good team. They're not also in the same tier as the Lions are when it comes to how bad they are. So I think,
I mean, I guess think of it this way. Like, you just lost to a team who the quarterback, nobody knew who that guy was before he took the field. They're on their like 7th running back. They brought in Devonta Freeman off the street. Like, the Ravens are in a similarly.
What's the difference?
These guys stink.
John Harbaugh is exceptional at getting his players ready to play. Wink Martindale is exceptional on the defensive side. Greg Roman's one of the best offensive coordinators in the league, and this is why coaching matters. And that's why the Ravens won on Sunday.
But that's why I give the Lions the credit they do because
Dan Campbell's that much superior.
We make fun of him, but they've played competitive games every single week. Damn near.
I agree, but I'm not going to make
you already should have lost the Lions once. You should have lost that game the first time you saw them. If the Lions weren't great at giving it away in their own red zone for the weirdest reasons, the ball bouncing off Jared Goff's shoulder on a mistimed snap. Like, you should, by all intents and purposes, you should have lost to the Lions once already. And now things are exceptionally worse in Chicago.
It's sad that I don't care either. Like, I don't care if they lose. Actually, I do care because I want them.
If they lose,
Matt Nagy's gone. He's gone, Jake. Jake, if you lose to the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving,
I think that will be the best chance we have
of
him getting fired. But I still don't think it'll happen
because it's never gotten that bad. I'll make my prediction. I think they lose if Jared Goff plays. I think they win handily if Tim Boyle plays. Okay, that's
fine.
And now I will say this as well. I think that prediction is somewhat subject to change given the injury report. If the Bears are more healthy than we expect them to be, I think they'll win even if Jared Goff is the quarterback. But other than that, I'll make that prediction. They're not losing to Tim.
No, I agree. If Goff plays, they lose this game 17-10. If Boyle plays, you probably win like 9-6.
And in other news, the Bulls are losing by 21 to the Pacers. So this is just love Chicago sports.
Illinois just lost by 20 to unranked Cincinnati.
I hate everything.
So good. Things are great.
So good. Now the Bears are ripping off 6 in a row and making the playoffs. We'll see you guys next week. Bear down.
All right, well, that's not going to happen, but that is a wrap on a very depressing episode.
Blame Shane.
Yeah, blame Shane. Sure, why not? Anyway, we will be back next week to break down whatever the hell happens in this very weird game. And I mean, Andy Dalton is going to play this game. Don't know who's playing for Detroit, and it's just going to be real gross to start your Thanksgiving right at 11 a.m., bright and early, everyone. It's going to be so disgusting. But we'll be back next Monday, a week from today. We'll break it down. We'll talk it through with everyone. Maybe we have a new head coach. Maybe we don't. Hard to say. Kevin thinks we will. I don't think we will. But hey, weirder things have happened. So until then, we hope everyone has an awesome Thanksgiving. Love all of you. Appreciate you all for listening and watching. You guys are the best. Long said it. But until next week, happy Thanksgiving. Bear down.
Bear down.